This happened when I was 29, 1977. I was traveling a lot in a band, had to take some time off the road, quit the band. But that evening when I went back to my apartment, a little duplex with my roommates, within about an hour of talking, I started feeling what other people were going to ask and say. I went to sleep that night, or tried to. I couldn't sleep at all. My mind was racing like never before. My roommate came walking in, reading the morning newspaper, and I saw the headlines through his eyes. I walked down to the store about a couple hours later, and everybody I passed on the sidewalk, I could feel what they were thinking about. Unsolicited. It was bizarre. But at the same time, I felt this protection. I felt these guardian angels. I felt something was watching over me. They seemed to name themselves the monitors. I never saw them, except one time, which I'll explain. But I kept feeling them. Then all of a sudden, I felt this real warmth around me, just millisecond. What? Opened my eyes, and there's this huge light shining down on me. It looked like a spotlight. And I thought, wow, if I had a ladder, I could touch it. It's 6 feet up above me. It was physical. I could see it. And I looked around at all these people watching me, and none of them acknowledged this huge light coming down. I couldn't understand it, but I didn't care. I looked back up at the light. Then it appeared as a crystal table about this thick. And as I looked through it, I saw these palms of these 7 monitors, these 7 beings looking down at me, and this light's coming down through their hands, and I was just amazed. Fear had just instantly vaporized. They were in white robes. Their faces kind of looked like gray, like they weren't male or female, as if to say our faces don't matter. It's our presence. And they said, "Do you trust us?" I said, "Well, of course. I mean, you're the monitors. You're the guys I've been feeling for." "Yes, do you trust us?" "Yeah, but I don't understand what's going on." "Do you trust us?" One voice, 7 of them. Pedestrians and people who had been watching me or watching me talk to something, as far as they concerned, ain't there. It was the most real thing I've ever seen. A second or two, I was involved in a head-on collision with the speeding car. Bam, got hit, tumbling over the car. All of a sudden, I'm outside my body. And I'm watching it get tumbled over by the car, but I felt this certain sort of detachment, almost humor. Well, if that's me, that's just what goes on in life. And I'm expanding outside the car in all directions like a balloon, not like an arrow, but like a balloon. I saw an accident. I saw the whole city of Austin, Texas, a little dot. I saw the whole earth contract within inside me because I'm expanding. Now, my body's down there on Guadalupe Street, people hollering and screaming and freaking out. Planets, galaxies, it's expanding bigger and bigger and bigger. Went through the solar system, went through the whole universe, got to the edge of the universe, went outside of it. And in the book, I described what I felt like was a level of consciousness that I call the colors, seemed to name itself that. It's a level of consciousness that when we come in at birth, we go through this level of the colors that gives us the ability to use our natural human senses and brain to understand who we are and where we came from. We get to choose whether to do that or not. But I'm expanding beyond this. I went through the colors. I went to the edge of the universe. I felt like I was popped out of it, and it was a starry sky, and there's infinite universes, and that's the one I came out of. And then this whole infinite universe is rolled up kind of like a funnel of light. And it's really a good explanation. And I felt like I was shot through it and came out on the other side. But by this time, I had no awareness of me. It was pure sensation. Awareness of me stopped about the time I saw my body tumbling over the car and started expanding. And I was in this blue infinite void that was unbelievably peaceful and beautiful. And it was infinite mind. And one of the many, many things I realized, and this is the most important one, infinite mind is completely unlimited. Nothing can constrain it, control it. It's all possibilities over all time and space, either manifested physically or not, but there's no limitation. and there's nothing that can pose a limitation on it. And it's completely unbiased. It has no bias. And either it existed, which it does, and everything exists, or it wouldn't have existed and nothing would exist. There's no in between, either infinite or nothing. Guess which happened? Infinite. I feel like I was at one with it. It was the most beautiful experience. Seeing the creation, seeing different universes, seeing different free wills, wishes, hopes, plans, seeing the interconnectedness between thought, visualization, manifestation, free will, infinite time, infinite space. I could go on and on and on. It was like you just rock it. You just get it. You don't, doesn't have to be in English or anything. You just understand it because you're part of it. And all of a sudden I realized, maybe I'm not part of it. Maybe I'm observing it. And I was pulled back through this tunnel of light and back into this universe and started collapsing into time and space. Had no idea who I was or where I was going, but I was a little apprehensive. Where I was pretty nice. Closer I got to this solar system and then to Earth, I started seeing all these flashcards, these pictures on spinning newspapers. They came in 3 series. The first series was what we're going through now. I saw 9/11, I saw COVID-19, I saw global warming. I saw, which I couldn't even imagine at that time, this carnage in the country. Nobody in 1977 walked around with AK-47. You know, I saw that and I couldn't believe it. I said, no, that's got to be a hallucination. Nope, I'm not trying to freak people out. I'm trying to say we're going through a big, big change. And there's a reason for it. And I saw this because I saw all the craziness, all the confusion in the first series of pictures. The second series of pictures were the 1,000 Years of Peace, exploring space, solving a lot of our problems, that we are headed that direction. It's a clumsy road. We got a long ways to go. That's idealized love, space, technology, no hatred. Where we are now is chaos. So there's a big gap between where we are and where we're headed. The third set of pictures was about me. And then all of a sudden I see my body and I jump back into my body, kind of like home. Well, it was the middle of a Guadalupe Street and people are screaming and hollering, and the driver, the first thing I noticed is long red hair hanging all over my face. And this driver's leaning over me screaming, man, I tried to stop, I couldn't stop it, and then I hope you're freaking out. Well, I just been to heaven and back. I felt no pain, nothing. I felt great, although a little eerie. I jumped to my feet and he kept trying to grab me and put me down and hold me. He said, you're in shock. No, I'm not in shock. You're hurt. No, I'm not hurt, you know. How do you know? I didn't want to explain. So I kind of shoved him away. Tried to ask these other people if they'd seen this monitors and everything. Everybody's not worried about that. They're worried about how the hell you got hit by a speeding car and you jumped right to your feet and talking like nothing happened. And within 5 minutes, I was going to go home. Okay, nobody's hurt. I'll just walk home. I heard the sirens and people saying, no, stay here till you talk to the police and the cops. And okay, yeah. So a couple minutes later, the police and cops and the ambulance came and asked me what happened. Boy, did that open a can of worms. As soon as I tried to explain why I wasn't hurt and what happened, they couldn't believe it at all. And of course, I wouldn't have either. You know, all the witnesses saw was me talking to something, getting hit by a car, just jumping to my feet right after that and started talking to them like nothing happened. And I tried to explain to the cops and the ambulance and well, they couldn't let me walk home. Like nobody could understand what I was saying, and I wouldn't have believed me either, to be honest with you. Anyway, they took me to the hospital, x-rayed me, wasn't hurt at all, no damage at all. There was a guy that walked in from the emergency room, and I knew him. I'd had premonitions about him. I knew his name, knew where he went to school. He was a psychiatrist. He starts asking me what happened. I started explaining it, and he said, I've heard about this, never seen anybody that's going through this. I said, you are now. He asked me a couple questions, and I explained to him about some personal things with he and his son and rearranging the furniture last week, and his wife not liking the cutting down the floor space. He said, how did you know that? with it. I know everything. I knew his name. I could tap into anything. The thing is, I couldn't turn it off. That's what had freaked me out. It was enjoyable, but it was too much. So he finally said, look, we're going to have to commit you to a psychiatric hospital. You know, what you're saying, what you're acting like, you know, we just can't let you just walk home, you know. And my attitude was sort of, no problem. I don't care. I just been to heaven, man. I can't. I felt like these people were grounding agents. The cops, police, ambulance, emergency room, put me in a 10-day mandatory commitment to a psychiatric hospital here. I didn't resist at all. All the patients are calling me Mr. Smiles. I'm happy all the time. I'm playing piano for them. I'm entertaining. I spent 10 days there, and at the end of 10 days, the psychiatrists all get together. They talk to me, and they decide whether I'm going to have to stay another 10 days or I'm okay. And I said, look, I know you folks don't believe what I went through, but I'm not changing my story. You're a psychiatrist. You ought to study this. Look at the record. I didn't even get a scratch, didn't get hurt, knew I wouldn't. If you can find a better theory than I got, I'm all ears. I saw over the next 100 years, and there are so many images I saw so quickly that oftentimes I don't recognize them until I see the incident. I can't lay out for certainty exactly what's going to happen when. There was so much information so fast. We can't change the chaos the world's going through now. And the reason we're going through it, one simple reason. We all have to see the holes in the boat, the flaws in ourselves and in our systems before we can fix them. We're going through this period in time, not by accident, but it's the opportunity that life is giving us to see what needs to be fixed so we can fix it. We get to pay attention and heed the call or ignore it. Humans have free will, and we can decide whether to pay attention, grow, evolve, use that opportunity, or to ignore it. It's that simple. Choice, choice, choice. And I always say the most powerful thing in human nature is free will, because we get to choose how we see things, how we perceive things. It ain't our situation. It's how we perceive it. Because how we perceive it, how we look at it, means how we're going to act and react. And either make it worse or better, or move out of Dodge, or make a change, or not. I'm 75. I'm kind of disabled. I can barely walk sometimes, and I certainly don't need to go walk around and look for stuff. So every time I'm missing something, I just think about it. And within 5 minutes a day, before I frantically need it, it appears. Why shouldn't life work that way? Why shouldn't we be able to get that power? You know, I mean, personally, I'd like to have the power to heal the world, but I can't. I can't stop war. We can only do our part. But if we do our part, we're doing the most important part. And I encourage people all the time to open up to your infinite mind. That's why we're going through all these changes now. See, humankind's not being tortured, it's being slapped in the face. Wake up. It all starts inside. Love yourself. Forgive yourself. Liberate yourself. Pat yourself on the back. That's how I learned to play the piano. In 3 years, I practiced 12 to 14 hours every day. And I'd pat myself on the back at noon, because when I started practicing at 10 o'clock, now I could do. So yeah, it makes your efficiency better. It's never how hard we work in life. It's how smart, it's how wise, it's how creative, it's how open-minded, it's how inspired, it's how virtuous, it's how true to our core values. Have hearts, have soul, folks. Believe you can climb that mountain, ask for help, and don't be surprised if you start climbing that mountain. Visit my website, GaryWimmer.com, lithomancy.com. You'll find me.